There is something about America in the 1980s that people who lived through it cannot forget. The neon colors, the synthesizers, the sense that anything was possible. And if someone lived through it, they know exactly what made that decade so electric. This was a time when America was feeling confident again after the difficulties of the 1970s. Ronald Reagan was in the White House, promising morning in America. MTV was revolutionizing how people experienced music. The Cold War was still very real, but the economy was booming. The mall was the center of teenage social life. This was the decade that gave us personal computers, VCRs, Blockbuster movies, and a culture of optimism and excess. The uncertainty of the 1970s was fading, and America was ready to celebrate. Technology was changing daily life in ways that felt thrilling and futuristic. Being American in the 1980s meant living through a decade of bold colors, big dreams, and genuine belief in American power. Let's walk through what daily life actually felt like during that unforgettable decade. Some of this might bring back memories. Some of it reveals just how much has changed in 40 years. Let's step into that world. Homes in 1980s. America had a very distinct aesthetic. The earth tones of the 1970s were out. Pastel colors were in. Mauve, peach, dusty rose, and teal-covered walls and furniture. Miami Vice made these colors cool, and suddenly, everyone wanted that look. Living rooms featured sectional sofas in bold geometric patterns. Glass and brass coffee tables sat on plush carpeting. Entertainment centers made of particle board with faux wood finish dominated one wall, designed specifically to hold all the new technology. The television was still large and boxy, but now it might be 25 or 27 inches. Most families had cable television by the mid-1980s, which meant dozens of channels instead of just 3 or 4. HBO, Showtime, CNN, ESPN, and MTV changed what television meant. The remote control became standard, though it was large and clunky with actual buttons. Fighting over the remote became a family dynamic. The VCR was the technology that changed everything about home entertainment. Families could record shows to watch later. They could rent movies and watch them at home. Blockbuster Video opened its first store in 1985, and within a few years there was one in every town. Going to Blockbuster on Friday night became a ritual. Walking the aisles looking at VHS boxes, trying to find something everyone could agree on, hoping the movie you wanted was actually in stock. The new releases section was always picked over. Late fees became a dreaded reality. The microwave oven became standard in American kitchens during the 1980s. The ability to heat food in minutes changed how families ate. Frozen dinners designed for the microwave filled supermarket freezers. TV dinners could be ready in 5 minutes instead of 45. This felt revolutionary. Cordless phones appeared in the mid-1980s, though they were expensive. Being able to walk around while talking on the phone was liberating. The phones were bulky, and the reception was often filled with static, but they felt incredibly futuristic. Teenagers would take the cordless phone into their rooms for privacy, though the range was limited. The answering machine also became common, allowing people to leave messages when no one was home. Coming home and checking the blinking light to see if anyone called was part of the daily routine. Personal computers started appearing in homes by the mid-1980s. The Apple II, the Commodore 64, and later the IBM PC brought computing into living rooms. These computers connected to the television and loaded programs from floppy disks. Kids used them for games. Adults used them for word processing and spreadsheets. Computer literacy became something parents worried their kids needed. Schools started adding computer labs. Learning to type on a computer keyboard was seen as preparing for the future. By the late 1980s, some families had modems. Connecting to bulletin board systems, hearing that distinctive screeching dial-up sound, and waiting for information to slowly appear on screen was thrilling. The internet was not yet accessible to regular people, but the foundation was being laid. Ronald Reagan became president in 1981 and set the tone for the decade. His message was optimism. Morning in America. The malaise of the 1970s was over. America was back. Reagan's communication style, polish from his Hollywood years made him the great communicator. He presented a vision of American strength and prosperity that many Americans embraced. The economy boomed through much of the decade after a severe recession in the early 1980s. By the mid-1980s, the stock market was soaring. Real estate prices were rising. Yuppies, young urban professionals, became a cultural phenomenon. These were people in their 20s and 30s making serious money in business and finance. They wore power suits with shoulder pads, carried briefcases, and aspired to drive BMWs. Wall Street became glamorous. Movies like Wall Street captured the excess and ambition of the era. Greed is good became an actual philosophy for some. The Cold War remained a constant presence throughout the 1980s. The Soviet Union was the enemy. Nuclear war felt like a real possibility. Movies like The Day After depicted nuclear devastation and traumatized viewers. Kids practiced duck and cover drills in schools. Though everyone knew hiding under a desk would not save anyone, Reagan took a hard line against the Soviet Union, calling it the evil empire. The arms race accelerated, with both sides building more nuclear weapons. By the late 1980s, things began to change. Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in the Soviet Union. His policies of glasnost and perestroika opened the country. Reagan and Gorbachev developed a working relationship. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989. The Cold War was ending, though no one quite understood that yet. For Americans who had grown up with the Soviet threat as a constant reality, the changes were almost incomprehensible. Before we continue with the music and culture that defined this remarkable decade, if you are enjoying this journey into how Americans really lived and want to explore more decades and stories, consider subscribing. There is so much more to uncover about the moments that shaped modern America. MTV launched on August 1st, 1981, and it changed everything about music and youth culture. The first video was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. For the first time, teenagers could watch music videos all day. MTV created new stars and destroyed careers based on whether artists looked good on camera. Madonna understood MTV perfectly. Her videos for Like a Virgin, Material Girl, and Like a Prayer made her the biggest star of the decade. Michael Jackson's Thriller video was a cultural event. The 14-minute short film premiered in 1983 and everyone watched it. Jackson became the king of poppy. His album Thriller became the best-selling album of all time. Bruce Springsteen released Born in the USA in 1984. The album and its videos captured working-class American life. Prince combined rock, funk, and pop into something entirely his own. Purple Rain in 1984 made him a superstar. New wave and synth pop dominated the early 1980s. Duran Duran, The Human League, Depeche Mode, and Culture Club brought synthesizers and bold fashion. MTV loved these bands because their videos were visual spectacles. Hair metal took over the latter part of the decade. Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, and Poison packed arenas. The bigger the hair and the louder the guitars, the better. Hip-hop was emerging from New York City. Run DMC, LL Cool J, and Public Enemy were creating something revolutionary. Hip-hop was still underground to most of white America, but it was growing. Walk This Way, the collaboration between Run DMC and Aerosmith in 1986, brought hip-hop to mainstream audiences. The Walkman made music portable. People could listen to their own music anywhere. Jogging with headphones on became common. Making mixtapes for friends or romantic interests became an art form. Sitting by the radio waiting for your favorite song to play so you could record it onto cassette was a familiar frustration. Compact discs appeared in the mid-1980s. They were expensive, but the sound quality was supposedly perfect. By the late 1980s, compact disc players were becoming affordable and people were replacing their vinyl collections. Movies in the 1980s were spectacular in ways that defined the decade. Blockbusters ruled. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas dominated. E.T. the Extraterrestrial in 1982 became a phenomenon. The image of the boy and the alien on the bicycle flying across the moon was everywhere. Return of the Jedi in 1983 concluded the original Star Wars trilogy. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom made Harrison Ford the biggest action star. John Hughes created the definitive teen movies. The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Pretty in Pink captured teenage life in ways that resonated. These movies took teenagers seriously. They showed that teen problems mattered. Back to the Future in 1985 was a perfect movie that combined science fiction, comedy, and heart. Die Hard in 1988 created a new kind of action movie. Top Gun in 1986 made Tom Cruise a superstar and made everyone want to be a fighter pilot. Going to the movies was still a major outing. Theaters were not yet multiplexes in many places. You went to see a specific movie at a specific time. Lines wrapped around the building for big releases. Missing the showing meant waiting or coming back another day. Shopping in the 1980s meant going to the mall, and malls were at their absolute peak. Every suburb had a mall. These were not just shopping centers, they were social spaces. Teenagers went to the mall just to hang out, walking around, looking at stores, maybe buying something at the arcade, getting food at the food court. The food court was a 1980s innovation. Instead of one restaurant, there were a dozen different options all in one space. Orange Julius, Sparrow, and Chinese food from places with names like Panda Express. Department stores anchored the malls: JCPenney, Sears, Macy's, and Nordstrom. These stores had multiple floors and sold everything. New stores defined 1980s mall culture. The Gap sold casual American clothing. The Limited targeted young professional women. Benetton, with its colorful sweaters, was everywhere. The Body Shop brought natural beauty products. Sam Goody and Tower Records sold music. The record store was a destination, flipping through CDs and cassettes, listening to albums on the headphones at the listening station, checking out concert posters on the walls. Arcades were everywhere in the 1980s. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and later games like Street Fighter II drew crowds. Arcades were loud, dark spaces filled with teenagers feeding quarters into machines. The competition was intense. Getting the high score meant your initial stayed on the machine for everyone to see. The Nintendo Entertainment System launched in America in 1985, and it changed home gaming forever. Nintendo and Super Mario Bros. Were revolutionary. Kids begged their parents for a Nintendo. Playing video games at home became a standard part of childhood. The graphics were primitive by today's standards, but at the time they were amazing. Food in the 1980s reflected both health consciousness and excess. Lean cuisine and other diet frozen meals targeted women worried about calories. Salad bars became fixtures in restaurants. The idea of building your own salad with dozens of options felt modern. Fast food chains continued expanding. McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's were everywhere. The Whopper versus Big Mac debate was real. Taco Bell brought fast food Mexican to the masses. Pizza Hut and Domino's made pizza delivery standard. Calling for pizza, waiting 30 minutes, and paying the delivery driver was a weekly ritual for many families. Microwave popcorn appeared in the mid-1980s. Being able to make fresh popcorn in minutes without a pot on the stove felt like magic. Junk food marketing targeted kids aggressively. Sugary cereals with cartoon mascots filled grocery store shelves. Fruit roll-ups, Gushers, and Dunkaroos made lunchboxes colorful. Capri Sun in its distinctive pouch became standard. Crystal Pepsi tried to convince people that clear cola was better. It was not. New Coke in 1985 was one of the biggest marketing disasters ever. Coca-Cola changed its formula and America rebelled. The backlash was so severe that Coca-Cola brought back the original formula as Coca-Cola Classic. The lesson was clear: do not mess with Coke. Fashion in the 1980s was bold and excessive. Shoulder pads made everyone look like linebackers. Power suits for professional women had massive shoulder pads and were often paired with sneakers for the commute. Big hair was essential. Women used hairspray by the can to achieve height and volume. The bigger the better. Men wore their hair long and back, sometimes with mullets. Business in the front, party in the back. Neon colors were everywhere: bright pink, electric blue, lime green. These colors appeared on clothing, accessories, and makeup. Members-only jackets were status symbols. The sleek windbreaker-style jacket with the collar turned up was cool. Izod shirts with the little alligator logo were preppy essentials. Guess jeans with the triangle logo were expensive and desirable. Acid-wash denim was a trend that seemed like a good idea at the time. Leg warmers worn over jeans were inspired by exercise culture. Scrunchies held up big hair. Jelly shoes, those plastic sandals that came in bright colors, were uncomfortable but fashionable. Parachute pants made of shiny nylon were MC Hammer's contribution to fashion. Ray-Ban Wayfarer sunglasses became essential after Tom Cruise wore them in Risky Business. The 1980s were not perfect. The AIDS crisis emerged and devastated communities. The disease was poorly understood at first, and stigma was severe. The Reagan administration was slow to respond. Thousands died before the country took it seriously. The war on drugs escalated with Nancy Reagan's Just Say No campaign. Drug use was often portrayed as a moral failing. Crack cocaine devastated inner-city communities. The economic boom was not evenly distributed. Manufacturing jobs continued disappearing, and the Rust Belt suffered as factories closed. The farm crisis hit rural America hard, with family farms foreclosing. Homelessness became more visible in American cities. What defined America in the 1980s was confidence bordering on excess. This was a decade that believed bigger was better. The cars got bigger again after the small economy cars of the late 1970s. The hair got bigger. The wealth got bigger. The ambitions got bigger. Technology was changing daily life in ways that felt exciting. Personal computers, VCRs, video games, and cable television brought new possibilities into homes. Music videos created new stars and new ways of experiencing music. Movies were spectacular events that drew massive audiences. For those who lived through the 1980s, it was a time of bold colors, big dreams, and genuine optimism about America's place in the world. The mall was the center of social life. Arcades were gathering places. Music was everywhere. The Cold War was ending, even if people did not realize it yet. For those with memories of this remarkable decade, there is always more history to explore.